Hello, everyone, and welcome back inside the home office. I'm Craig D'Amico, and this is NEC Football on the Run. It was a big weekend of action this past week, a slate that included our very first conference game of the season. Yes, the road to the 2022 NEC Football Championship is underway. Coming up on this week's show, we're going to go through our top stars of the week. We're going to chat about some stats. We're going to preview the upcoming weekend slate. And we'll bring in Sacred Heart running back Malik Grant for our weekly conversation. Look forward to that chat. But first, let's take you back through the week that was with our top headlines. It's time for the Pick Six. We start with our top headline, the NEC Game of the Week, the conference opener featuring teams who have had a hand in claiming at least a share of the last 5 NEC championships. Interstate rivals, the Central Connecticut State Blue Devils, and the two-time reigning and defending champion, the Sacred Heart Pioneers, under the lights last Saturday night at a root field in New Britain on ESPN3. After getting shut out the week before against Lafayette in the opener and stopped in the final seconds at the goal line, the Pioneers finally found the end zone on their second series against CCSU. Taking over in Blue Devil territory at the Central 35. After the defense helped flip field position, the Pioneers navigated their way down the field 10 plays, 35 yards, 5 minutes, 11 seconds, and Malik Grant walks right into the end zone, the very first Pioneer points of the season, and a 7-0 Sacred Heart lead. Central got a field goal right at the end of the first half to go into intermission down by 4, 7-3, and then they grabbed the lead in the third quarter. After forcing a Sacred Heart fumble in the red zone, and they then turned it around and scored on a Nas Smith 1-yard touchdown run. Nas, it ain't hard to tell who is one of the top playmakers for the Blue Devils. He was. Smith was Central's leading rusher and receiver on the night. Sacred Heart that answered right back with a 13-play, 64-yard drive to retake the advantage, 14-10 on a Rob McCoy 14-yard touchdown run. McCoy kind of dragged the entire Central defense with him there for the final 5 yards to get into the end zone. Now, Central would have 2 more chances. First, on a 4th and 6 at the Sacred Heart 19. They picked up 4 on a completion to Everett Wormley, but they needed 6. 4 wasn't good enough. He ended up just shy of the first down marker, resulting in a turnover on downs. But 2 plays later, Womack fumbled the ball for Sacred Heart, recovered by Central, so there was new life. The Blue Devils took over close to midfield and had a final chance. They got it to 2nd and goal at the Sacred Heart 5 with about 100 seconds remaining in regulation. Romello Williams rolls out to the right, fires to the end zone, but Arsheen Giles steps in front of the intended receiver, picks it off, and the Pioneers can exhale. They lost it at the goal line last week. They win it at the goal line this week, 14-10. Sacred Heart 1-0 in conference play to start the 2022 campaign. Although they might want to get the defibrillators ready in Fairfield, I don't know if their fan base is going to make it through the season if every game comes down to the goal line in the final seconds. Now, penalties still a problem for Sacred Heart. They committed 6 for 73 yards, and they turned the ball over a couple times. But the defense was key again. They held Central to 3 for 12 on third down, just 10 points allowed, and 254 total yards of offense for the game. Another strong performance, and we'll have more on the Sacred Heart defense coming up later in the show. Now, Stonehill was the only NEC team to win back in week 1. How would they follow that up in week 2? Their home opener at W.B. Mason Stadium against Post University. Well, let's just say the people in charge of writing the Stonehill football record books, they earned their paycheck on this afternoon, considering they practically had to rewrite the entire thing. The Skyhawks scored on their first 8 straight possessions, leading 41-0 at the end of the first quarter and 55-0 at the half. The Skyhawks put up 496 total yards of offense on their way to a 76-0 win. They were tossing around points like they toss around glow sticks at Coachella. The 76 points, a school record. The margin of victory, a school record. This is going to start to sound like a broken record. They had 6 touchdown runs, which tied the program record. Plus, they forced 5 turnovers and had 7 different players find the end zone. And our buddy kicker Perry Shelbred had 10 points on the afternoon, all on extra points. Quarterback Asher Karaha had 4 of his 9 completions go for touchdowns. Jermaine Corbett had 3 touchdown runs. Chris Domercan had 2 touchdown catches. Tom Camella recovered a blocked punt for a touchdown as Stonehill starts 2-0 for the second straight year. Now, I know what everybody's thinking, so I'll say it. Stonehill's 2-0. Yeah, but it's great and all. What a great story. But 2 wins against a couple of D2 teams. What happens when they finally tangle with a Division I FCS team? Well, we're going to have to be patient to wait and find out what happens, because the Skyhawks are going to disappear like David Blaine for the next 2 weeks. They won't reemerge again until October 1st, their conference opener against Duquesne. Speaking about Duquesne, after falling in their first 2 games of the season on the road, the Dukes returned home this week to take on Thomas More, and the home cooking is exactly what they needed, as the Dukes rode their running back Billy Lucas for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns in a 34-14 win. Duquesne went ground and pound, outrushing the Saints 249-47, over 200 yards of an advantage there in the run game, and they owned a 10-minute time of possession advantage on the night. They were also efficient when they did put the ball in the air. Joe Mishler went 18 for 23 for 241 yards and 2 touchdowns. Dwayne Menders Jr. had a career-high 165 of those 241 yards and 1 of those 2 scores. Duquesne now 17-1 in their 18 home openers under head coach Jerry Schmidt. Now up next, the Dukes will be heading to the Aloha State to take on the Rainbow Warriors coming up this Saturday, and we have some news on their itinerary that you might find interesting. The team departed Pittsburgh on Tuesday morning about 9 a.m., had a layover in Denver, and arrived at about 9 p.m. Eastern time, which is 3 p.m. local, so a full day of travel. There was a hike at Diamond Head. Once they finally got there, they toured Pearl Harbor. They had a beach day on Friday, all working around practices, of course, because, I mean, it's a business trip. They're there to play a football game, right? So this team is looking to get back to 500 before opening up conference play against Stonehill on October 1st. Aloha, Dukes, and good luck against the Rainbow Warriors. On to number 5. Following their overtime loss last week to Akron, the St. Francis Red Flash were back on the road to challenge the Richmond Spiders. Trailing 14-6 in the second quarter, the Red Flash D came up with an interception. Quarterback Justin Slawski connected with wide receiver Mekhi Jackson for a 45-yard strike 3 plays later to get within 1 going into halftime. Jackson with a big day, by the way, 8 catches for 123 yards and that big 45-yard score. Now, going to the fourth quarter, trailing 24-13, Slawski ran it in from 13 yards out, plus the 2 points were converted to get SFU back within 3. They had a chance with the football and under 2 minutes to go to drive down to tie, maybe even win the game, but Slawski was intercepted on a 2nd and 7 by Aaron Banks, who ran it all the way back the other direction for a pick 6. Richmond gets the W 31-21. The Red Flash dropped to 0-2 on the season after a pair of tough, hard-fought games. They'll be back on the road this weekend to take on Wagner in their conference opener, and we'll have more on that game coming up later in the show. Finally, elsewhere in the NEC, LIU fell at home to 5th-ranked Villanova, and Wagner was stopped by Rutgers 66-7. The NEC standings have Sacred Heart in first place with a 1-0 conference record. Stonehill is still unblemished overall at 2-0. Merrimack 1-1, Duquesne 1-2, with LIU, St. Francis, Wagner, and Central still in search of their first win of the season. It's now time for our top 3 stars of the week, and there were plenty of candidates to choose from, but we start with number 3. It's Merrimack defensive back and special team standout Gary Rosemont Jr. The sophomore found the end zone twice this past weekend, first on a 40-yard pick 6 in the first half, then a 94-yard kick return touchdown in the second half. Rosemont had a pick in each of the first 2 games of the season, and he was honored this week as the NEC Special Teams Player of the Week. Number 2 is LIU defensive back Victor Nelson Jr. He also had an interception last week, and he didn't have 1 this week. He had 3 against the number 5 team in the country. It marked LIU's first 3-pick game by a single player since their final D2 season back in 2018. It was 1 shy of a program record. LIU had a 4-interception game by a single player back in 1968. Nelson currently leads all of FCS with 4 interceptions on the season, and he was this week's NEC Defensive Player of the Week. Our top star is Sacred Heart running back Malik Grant. During our preview of the Sacred Heart Central game on last week's show, we questioned whether Grant could break out against the Blue Devils like he did last year, and Saturday night we got our answer. Yes, he can. After getting shut out and stopped the goal line in the opener against Lafayette, he carried the ball for 25 times, 109 yards, and he got the Pioneers on the board with their and his first touchdown of the season to help lead the Pioneers to a 14-10 win over their interstate rivals in the conference opener. Sacred Heart starting 1-0 in conference play thanks to Malik Grant, our Week 2 NEC Football on the Run top star. And now here on NEC Football on the Run, we are joined by a returning customer, Sacred Heart running back Malik Grant, who joined us a few weeks ago back on Media Day, and he's here with us now to help recap the first 2 weeks of the season. Malik, thanks so much for joining us once again.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now we know, everyone wants their ball, the ball in their hands with the game on the line. And, let's go back 2 weeks ago in that first game of the season. You had the ball in your hands with the game on the line and you were stopped on the goal line. Now we know the 24-hour rule to put the last game behind you, but be honest, after that, how long did it take to kind of get over that?
I don't think me or anyone on the team really got over it, because we're all very livid after the game. That was a game we should have won. We should have produced more. We should have did a lot more to win that game as well. So it's stuck with us throughout the whole week of practice, no matter what it was, because we know we're better than that. And we know there's a lot more that we need to do to get better. So.
And it was interesting the way the schedule aligned, because you're going right into your first conference game. So perfect for a little bit of extra motivation going into that. We talked in our first interview about the big game that you had against Central last year, and it was in the middle of that 3 or 4 game stretch that you had last season. So what was the key to your success running the football this past weekend?
The key to my success running the ball this past weekend, I'll definitely say the offensive line. Those guys up front, they stepped up and they did an amazing job blocking up front. They gave me a very clear path of where to run the ball. And coaches calling our plays, they trust and believe in me to keep running the ball, to keep running hard and putting the ball in my hands. So it was just really the offensive line, those big guys up front, and the receivers out wide. They did a very, very phenomenal job blocking outside on the edges to really give me lanes to just put my foot in the ground and get upfield. And that's really what it was.
And now on the other side of things, how good is your defense?
The defense. I mean, have you seen what they've done in the past?
Yeah. Yep.
Especially going back to last season, those guys are amazing over there. Defense is amazing. The DBs, lockdown corners, the linebackers, amazing. They're on their P's and Q's no matter what it is. Defensive line, that's probably one of our best groups on the team, I feel like. And personally, in our safeties, those guys over there, and Coach Mike Cook, he's an amazing coordinator. He's literally on his P's and Q's all game, literally calling out what the other team is doing, because he's such an amazing defensive coordinator. He knows exactly what he's doing. And the defense, those guys, they play lights out no matter what it is. They play for each other. And it's just amazing to have those guys on your side, and not playing against those guys, because they're so good at what they do.
You took the next question out of my mouth. You must be fortunate for you to be on the same team. I mean, you go up against them in practice, but fortunately, you don't have to go up against them in a game situation, right?
Yeah. I think it's very great for us as an offense, to play against the best defense every single day in practice, day in and day out, especially with a defensive coordinator like Coach Cook. He does a lot of different things in practice where it challenges us to get better no matter what it is. So it is amazing it is good for us as an offense to play against the best defense every single day in practice.
Yeah, Coach Cook definitely cooking up some great things over there in the defensive meeting room out there in Fairfield. Now, as always, coming off the win, but there's still some things to shore up. I would say, penalties and turnovers are probably the biggest things I would imagine your coaches are hammering at you here these first couple of games. What has been the message, as far as things to improve on going forward?
All the messages, don't get complacent. There's a lot of mistakes that's made, and we need to clean those up to become an even better football team. Don't get complacent. Don't be okay with just beating Central and just getting one win. Like, let's try to improve every single day, get better, and stop turning the ball over because that's a major factor in games. Don't turn the ball over anymore. Do not put the ball on the ground, and make sure you hold on to that ball and stop creating stupid penalties and shooting ourselves in the foot when it's game time.
I would imagine you probably heard that once or twice the last week or 2 weeks or
Yeah.
so. Now, before we go into the big finish here, during the summer, we talked a little bit about your tag team partner there from last year, Julius Chestnut, who was in camp with the Titans, and he ended up making the final 53. So, how proud are you of him, and what are some of your thoughts when you first heard that he made the roster?
I'm extremely proud of him. When I first heard, when he told us, like when he texted us in our little group chat that we had with the guys, he told us that he made the roster. Like I jumped up and I was so excited. Like I couldn't stop smiling because I was just like, he worked so hard to get to this point, and look at him now. Like everyone doubted him no matter what it was. He was undrafted and everything, and he still went out there and worked his butt off day in and day out, and he made the roster. And now he's doing what he loves doing. Like he accomplished his dream. Now he's gonna go on and play in the NFL and keep working hard no matter what it is. It was just super exciting. Me and all the guys were just super excited for him and happy for him that he was able to never give up on his dream. And look at him now. He's accomplished what he dreamed of since he was a little kid.
Absolutely. It's awesome to see. It was great to hear the news. And now we're going into our rapid fire here. We have our final 5 questions for you. Just shoot out the first thing that comes to mind. All right.
All right.
All right. Your favorite pregame meal, either the morning of or the night before. What's your go-to?
Favorite pregame meal? I wouldn't say I really have a favorite pregame meal, but I definitely say I love to eat some type of fruit before the game, like grapes, watermelon, anything of that sort. It makes me feel comfortable, feel good.
Right. You can't go wrong, right? That's a good choice. Who's your favorite player, either current or in the past, to watch play?
My favorite player, current or in the past, I'd definitely say Barry Sanders. I really love his game. Le'Veon Bell. When I first started watching football ever, that's one of the first running backs I saw. So I really loved his game as well. Current, I'll say DeAndre Swift for surely. Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, a lot of those guys.
Awesome. Now, question 3, we know that your defense, we talked about them earlier, they have that money in the bank briefcase after they get the big turnover. If the offense got to have some sort of prop after they score a touchdown and have like a big celebration with this prop, what would the prop be? What do you think would be a good choice?
Offensive prop? Oof. I'm not sure. Probably like
if I could throw out a suggestion, the Pioneers, right? So like one of those like coonskin caps that have like the little tail on the back of it. I don't know. That's just for starters, maybe.
That will be funny. That will be funny. I'm not sure. I feel like for us, maybe just like the solo cups, like how the defense has it, because it's a party in the end zone.
There we go.
For no points,
Sounds good to me. Can't go wrong with that. If your teammates could describe you with one word, what word do you think your teammates would use to describe you?
One word. I think my teammates. I don't really know. That's really for my teammates to answer. I'm not sure.
Okay. And finally, finish the sentence. Sacred Heart wins the NEC championship this year
if we stop creating stupid penalties and shooting ourselves in the foot and get our act together and keep playing hard and score more points on offense and defense keeps balling out.
Well, you certainly turned things around this past week, got back in the win column, off to a 1-0 start in conference. So put that good foot forward, and still, obviously, like you said, still plenty of work to go. But thank you so much for joining us, Malik, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
That was Sacred Heart running back Malik Grant here on NEC Football on the Run. Now we send it over to our own Kyle Turner for this week's NEC Super 7.
Kyle Turner for NECFrontRow.com here to bring you the NEC Football Super 7 Countdown presented by Geico. Time to take a look at the top 7 plays from Week 2 in NEC FB. We kick things off at number 7. LIU's Rudy Silvera denies Villanova in the end zone with this pick, one of 4 on the day for LIU against FCS power Villanova. Number 6. St. Francis U freshman defensive back Ali goes sky high for this pick against Richmond.
Below a minute and a half before you have to punt it. Nope, he's going to go to the air. He's going to give it a try. He's throwing for Harris, and it is intercepted, I believe. It is picked off at the 45-yard line. What a leaping interception.
Number 5. LIU's Victor Nelson Jr., the NEC Defensive Player of the Week, intercepts his 3rd pass of the game against Villanova.
Gonna throw off his back foot. It's a hat trick! Victor Nelson Jr., take a bow.
Coming in at number 4. Central Connecticut's Jonathan Cabral Martin forces a fumble on this huge hit, and Jaleel Brown recovers to stop a Sacred Heart drive deep in Blue Devil territory.
And oh no! Fumbles it! Oh no! Madison fumbled it. Central Connecticut says they have it, and they do!
Number 3. Sacred Heart's Rob McCoy would not be denied on this play, taking the ball on the option and scoring to give Sacred Heart the lead for good in its NEC victory over CCSU.
There's that same play. McCoy ran right in, or he had him. Fighting his way inside the 5. He is close. He is at the 1, and he's in for the touchdown. Oh, what a great effort. Wow, Rob McCoy.
Number 2, the NEC Special Teams Player of the Week, Gary Roseman Jr. fakes the reverse, breaks a tackle, and then goes 94 yards on this kickoff return for a touchdown in a win over Assumption.
Into Assumption territory, and he may go. Cuts it back left, and that'll do it.
And our top play of the week comes from Sacred Heart's Arsene Giles, who seals the win for the Pioneers with this clutch end zone pick to beat Central Connecticut in the NEC opener on ESPN3.
Williams throws, and it's intercepted. It's picked off. Oh my goodness. Arsene Giles. Goodness. Huge play for the Pioneers. Potentially saving the game with Central driving. Oh wow.
Well folks, there you have it. That is your NEC Football Super 7 top plays from Week 2 presented by Geico. Fans, don't forget, if you see a great play, let us know on Twitter at NEC Sports or at NEC Football. For NECFrontRow.com, I'm Kyle Turner. Enjoy Week 3 of NECFB, and I'll see you again next week.
It's time now for Stat Chat, and this week we take a closer look at the Sacred Heart Pioneer defense, led by DC Mike Cook. We talked last week about how Sacred Heart held Lafayette to just 6 points, 113 total yards, and just eight passing yards while recording 2 interceptions and sacking the quarterback 3 times. This week, they followed it up by holding Central to just 10 points with 3 sacks and 2 more interceptions. Nationally, the Pioneers rank 3rd in the nation in total defense, allowing just 183.5 yards per game. They're tied for 6th in the nation in scoring defense, allowing an average of just 8 points per game. And their 4 team interceptions in 2 games this year is currently good for 4th in the nation. Great numbers all around for the Sacred Heart defense. They are the subjects of this week's Stat Chat. And now let's examine the Week 3 schedule. Here's what we have coming up on tap. On Friday night, the Merrimack Warriors will be traveling about 23 miles south to Cambridge, Massachusetts, to battle the Harvard Crimson at 7 p.m. Then on Saturday, Sacred Heart will take that defense on the road for a 3rd straight week, 3 straight road games to start the season. They don't play their home opener until next week's homecoming game against Dartmouth. But this week, they're in Baltimore against Morgan State for a noon kickoff. They met last year in Fairfield, with the Pioneers coming away with a 21-7 win. The LIU Sharks will be on the road against FBS opponent Kent State. LIU taking on FBS teams in 2 of their first 3 contests of the season. Then under the lights, Central Connecticut State will be at Southeastern Louisiana. And technically Sunday morning on the East Coast, 12 a.m. kickoff Eastern time. Stay up late / early. Or, of course, it's 6 p.m. Saturday night Hawaiian time. It'll be Duquesne taking on Hawaii. But our game of the week this week, will be a conference clash between the St. Francis Red Flash and the Wagner Seahawks atop Grimes Hill. 4 p.m. kick on NEC Front Row. Wagner leads the all-time series 22-8, but most of that damage was done from 1992 to 2014 when they won 21 of the first 24 meetings. But since then, the Red Flash have turned things around. They've taken 4 out of the last 6 affairs, including a 39-24 win last year in Loretto. Wagner led that game 14-6 at the half, but St. Francis poured on 33 second half points to come away with the win. Now, SFU has had some tough non-conference battles in their first 2 games, as we mentioned earlier, taking Akron into overtime, playing Richmond tough down to the final possessions in the fourth quarter last week. And their offense in those 2 games has put up some great numbers. They're averaging over 400 yards per game with Slawski at the controls. They'll be going up against a defense that hasn't put up great stats, but part of that is because of the level of competition that Wagner has faced in the first 2 weeks. Last check, they still feature the reigning defensive player of the year in Titus Leo, who had that sack and 4.5 tackles for a lost game 2 weeks ago. Also on the line in this game, Wagner is looking for their first W since September 28th of 2019. They are hungry to eat some W's. Their current unfortunate streak is at 22 games. Wagner is looking to put that in the rearview mirror on Saturday. St. Francis has won their last 2 conference openers, and for a team that was picked 3rd in the preseason poll this year, starting out 1-0 is of the utmost importance. The last time they fell in their NEC opener, you have to go back to 2018 to the Wagner Seahawks, the last time SFU visited Wagner College Stadium and Hamline Field. And that'll just about do it for this week's episode. We thank you for watching. What a great chat it was with Malik Grant. Always a great guest to talk to. It's interesting to hear how they were a little perturbed. That first game being stopped the goal line still lingered a little bit, but they were able to right the ship against Central Connecticut this past week. Start off 1-0 in conference play, but like he said, there's still a lot of P's and Q's to shore up going forward. We'll see the Pioneers against Morgan State coming up this weekend. Also, SFU and Wagner in conference action, plus much, much more. We'll be back here next week to wrap it all up for you, right back here on NEC Football on the Run. Until then, I'm Craig D'Amico, and we'll see you as always next week.